I always thought if my world ever collapsed, it would happen slowly, like how people drift apart or how a wound takes time to rot. But no. For me, everything ended in less than 24 hours. My wedding day, what should have been the happiest day of my life, became the moment I was betrayed, abandoned, and diagnosed with a terminal illness. That morning, the sun was almost too perfect. I, Emily Tran, 28 years old, sat in the bridal suite of a luxury hotel in downtown San Francisco, wearing a white lace gown I had spent 3 months designing. My mother was outside fussing over the floral arrangements. My father, as usual, grumbled about how late we were running. And me? I couldn't stop smiling. I was about to marry the love of my life. Ethan Cole, 33, not flawless, not rich, but kind, dependable, and mine. Or at least, I believed he was. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. It was a nurse from the hospital. I paused surprised, since my checkup 2 days earlier had felt routine. I wasn't sick. I wasn't even tired. Probably just paperwork. But the voice on the other end was different. Grave. Careful. Hi, Miss Tran. Dr. Kaplan needs to speak with you as soon as possible. It's urgent. I blinked. Is something wrong with my results? I can't say over the phone. But please, come in before noon if you can. He'll be waiting. The air around me shifted. My fingers went cold. My stomach twisted. I made an excuse to my makeup artist. I didn't tell my mother. Didn't call Ethan. I just slipped out of the hotel, threw on a coat over my gown, and took a cab across the city. I kept telling myself it was nothing. I had no idea that while I was on my way to hear the worst news of my life, Ethan was already betraying me with the one person I trusted more than anyone, my best friend, Lily Bennett. The hospital felt like a morgue. Sterile. Still. I sat across from Dr. Kaplan in his office, clutching the edge of my chair, holding my breath. He laid the file in front of him and looked me in the eyes. Emily. I'm very sorry. The biopsy confirmed you have pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer. Early stage, but aggressive. We need to begin treatment immediately. I couldn't hear anything after that. His voice became static. My vision blurred. I just sat there, still in my wedding dress, while the world around me collapsed. Cancer? Me? The girl who never smoked, rarely drank, jogged 3 times a week and took vitamins like clockwork. The cab ride back felt like a nightmare. I stared out the window, fingers trembling on my lap. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. I kept whispering, it's okay. You'll be okay. You'll tell Ethan. He'll understand. He'll hold you and say, we'll get through this together. But when I arrived back at the hotel, something felt off. The ceremony hadn't started. The lights in the ballroom were still on. The guests were still milling around. My mother was pacing near the entrance, but Ethan was nowhere to be found. Then, a little flower girl came skipping up to me with wide eyes. Miss Emily. I saw Miss Lily go upstairs with Mr. Ethan. They were mad. She was crying. He looked really angry. My heart stopped. I didn't ask questions. I ran. I took the elevator to the 12th floor, VIP suites. My heels echoed down the hall like gunshots. And there, at the end of the corridor, the door to room 1203 was slightly ajar. I stepped forward. And froze. Inside, Ethan was standing with Lily. He wasn't kissing her. But he was holding her face, whispering something soft. She was crying into his chest. It wasn't the kind of closeness that comes from comfort. It was the kind that comes from something else. Something deeper. Something I wasn't supposed to see. I didn't scream. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, in my wedding dress, watching the man I loved with the woman I once called my sister. On the day I was supposed to begin my forever, I was betrayed. An hours earlier, I had been told I was dying. I didn't walk into the room. I didn't scream or confront them. I just stood there on the other side of that half-open door, listening to Ethan whisper to Lily the kind of words he used to say to me. His hand brushed a tear from her cheek with a tenderness that shattered something inside me, something I didn't even know could still break. My body felt frozen, but my mind raced. Was this happening before today? Was this why Ethan had been distant these last few weeks? Was this why Lily had been avoiding eye contact every time I talked about the wedding? I turned around. I walked away. Not because I was strong, but because I knew if I stood there a second longer, I would collapse. I made it back to the hotel hallway, then ducked into the nearest stairwell, pressed my back against the cold wall, and let the silence swallow me. My phone buzzed. It was my maid of honor texting. "Where are you? Everyone's waiting." I stared at the message for what felt like forever. I didn't reply. What could I say? I just found out I have cancer and that my fiancé is in love with my best friend. That didn't belong in a text box. That didn't belong anywhere. I slid to the floor, still clutching the phone, and cried for the first time that day. It wasn't loud or messy. It was quiet. Numb. Like something inside me had already died. I don't know how long I stayed there. At some point, someone knocked on the door, housekeeping, maybe. I wiped my face, straightened my dress, and walked back out like nothing happened. Because in weddings, everyone expects the bride to smile. The ceremony didn't happen. At 1:30 p.m., my mother walked out and announced that due to a family emergency, the wedding was postponed. People whispered. Some tried to find me. I locked myself in the bridal suite. Ethan didn't knock on the door. Lily didn't either. By 3 p.m., the guests had left. My father left in anger. My mother cried in the hallway. And I sat in front of the mirror, still in my gown, staring at a version of myself I didn't recognize. The phone rang. It was Ethan. I didn't answer. He called again. Then came a message. Emily. Please talk to me. I didn't mean for you to see that. It's complicated. Complicated. That's what he called it. Not betrayal. Not cowardice. Complicated. I turned off the phone. That night, I checked into a small hotel across town under a fake name. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell anyone. I just disappeared. I needed air. Space. A version of reality where I could breathe. But reality had other plans. Because the next morning, I woke up to a news alert. A blog had leaked it. Photos. Gossip. Runaway bride. Wedding between tech consultant Ethan Cole and architect Emily Tran abruptly cancelled. They didn't know the half of it. And the worst part. Under the post, buried in the comments, was a single reply from a private account. It was Lily's. It read, "I never meant for it to happen this way. I just couldn't lie anymore." That was when I knew. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was premeditated. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't expect me to find out. Because I wasn't supposed to be alive much longer. That was the part that clawed at me the hardest. They knew I was sick. And instead of standing beside me, they chose each other. And they left me to die alone. Grief is strange. It doesn't always arrive with screams or sobbing or broken plates. Sometimes it creeps in like fog, quiet, thick, impossible to shake. I spent the next 3 days alone in that nameless hotel room. No calls. No visitors. The only sound was the buzz of the mini fridge and my own breathing, shallow, tired, unfamiliar. I didn't eat. Barely drank water. I watched old home videos of me and Ethan. Me and Lily. The three of us on a camping trip, laughing around a fire. A video from our first housewarming. Ethan surprising me with flowers. Lily joking about how we were practically a throuple. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But I didn't. Because some part of me, some sick, wounded part, was still clinging to what used to be. On the third night, I called the hospital, Dr. Kaplan picked up. He sounded surprised. I told him I was ready to start treatment. He was silent for a beat. Then said, "Emily, before we proceed, I need to be honest with you. The cancer is progressing faster than expected." I swallowed hard. He continued, "We can fight it. But we are no longer talking about long-term survival. We are talking about quality of life." I thanked him. Hung up. Then stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours. What does a quality of life mean when your life has just fallen apart? What does a fighting even look like when you don't know what you're fighting for anymore? The next morning, I packed my things and checked out. I didn't go home. I didn't go to my mother's. I went back to the hotel where the wedding was supposed to happen. Room 1203. I knew the cleaning staff rotated every few days. If I was lucky, the room would still be vacant. It was. I slipped a receptionist $100 bill and said I'd lost an earring during the event. She handed me the key without a second glance. I walked in. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and betrayal. I stood in the middle of the space, staring at the bed where I had seen them, Ethan's hand on Lily's cheek, her face buried in his chest. I sat down on that same bed. Closed my eyes. And tried to feel anything. Nothing came. No rage. No heartbreak. Just numb. I reached into my purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was my will. I had written it the night before. Not a legal document, just a letter. Something for whoever found me first. But now, holding it, I hesitated. Because for the first time since that terrible day, I didn't want to die. Not because I thought I would beat the cancer. Not because I wanted to forgive them. But because I wanted answers. I wanted the truth. I wanted to look Ethan in the eyes and ask, "When did you stop loving me?" And I wanted Lily to feel what I had felt. To know what it's like to be erased by the two people you trusted most. But revenge wasn't enough. I wanted closure. I wanted to reclaim whatever pieces of myself were still intact before the clock ran out. And maybe, if I was lucky, I'd find something worth living for again. The hardest part wasn't what they did. It was that they didn't say a word. No explanation. No apology. No attempt to even lie. Like they thought their silence would soften the blow. Like if they didn't say it out loud, it wouldn't count as betrayal. On the 5th day, I showed up at Ethan's apartment. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just stood at his door in the same oversized coat I'd worn on what should have been our wedding day. He opened the door slowly, like he already knew who it was. His face dropped. He looked thinner. Tired. "Emily." I didn't wait. I stepped inside. The living room was dim, barely lived in. 2 mugs on the coffee table. One still had lipstick on the rim. Lily. I sat on the couch. Calm. Cold. He didn't move. "You lied to me," I said. He opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. "No. You don't get to explain. I'm not here for excuses." He nodded slowly. Guilty. Maybe even ashamed. But not enough. Not nearly enough. "How long?" She asked. His eyes dropped to the floor. 3 months, he said quietly. It wasn't planned. I swear. It just happened. I finished for him. Like a flat tire or a spilled drink. He didn't answer. The silence stretched like a noose. I stood up and walked to the bookshelf, running my fingers over a photo of us in Hawaii just 6 months ago. My smile beamed so wide it hurt to look at. "Did she know?" She asked. "About my diagnosis?" His eyes widened. That was the moment I saw it. The shift. He knew. He knew before I did. My knees nearly buckled. "She overheard you on the phone one night," he admitted. "With the hospital." She told me. I was going to tell you, I turned around slowly. You knew I was dying. And you still chose her. He stepped toward me. I didn't stop loving you. I laughed, sharp and cruel. Then why did you leave me alone to die? He reached out. I stepped back. Don't, I said. You don't get to comfort me now. He nodded, eyes glassy. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said. And the worst part? I was still going to marry you. I was going to fight for us. For whatever time I had left. Tears burned in my throat. I looked him dead in the eye. You didn't just betray me. You buried me before I even had a chance to live. Then I left. I didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. I walked away the same way I arrived, quiet, invisible. And for the first time in years, I realized. Love didn't make me stronger. It made me small. It made me easy to discard. And I was done being discarded. After I left Ethan's apartment, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I expected to collapse on the sidewalk and scream until my lungs gave out. But instead, I just walked. Block after block, through the city I used to love, now a backdrop for the ruins of everything I thought was real. I passed a bridal shop and nearly laughed. A woman stood in the window, trying on a dress, eyes glowing, hands pressed against her chest. I remembered being her. Naive. Full of plans. Believing love could outrun fate. I kept walking. Until I found myself standing in front of Lily's apartment. It wasn't planned. My feet just brought me there like some twisted gravitational pull between a ghost and the one who killed her. I didn't ring the buzzer. I waited until someone exited the building and slipped inside. Her door was on the 3rd floor. 3B. I remembered it from the nights we used to drink cheap wine and cry over bad dates. Now, I was the bad date. I knocked twice. No answer. Then the door cracked open. There she was. Still beautiful. Still the same girl who once held my hair back while I threw up from tequila. Still the same girl who used to say, if a man ever hurts you, I'll set his car on fire. She opened her mouth. But nothing came out. I spoke first. You're sleeping with my fiancé. You were at my wedding. You knew I was sick. And you said nothing. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. Emily, please. It wasn't like that. No. I said. Then tell me what it was like. Tell me how you justified it. Tell me what twisted story you wrote in your head where you weren't the villain. She looked down, ashamed. Good. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. It got complicated. He came to me. He was falling apart. He said he couldn't handle what you were going through. I laughed. Cold. So you handled it for him? Between your sheets. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't care. Because the woman crying in front of me. She wasn't my friend. She was the one who sharpened the knife Ethan put in my back. Did you ever love me? She asked. Her lips trembled. I still do. That broke me. Then why did you kill me while I was still breathing? She didn't answer. So I left. And this time, I did slam the door. Back at the hotel, I finally opened my laptop. I typed the first sentence of a new journal entry. Today, Emily Tran died. I stared at the blinking cursor. Then typed the second line. And someone else was born. I didn't know who that someone was yet. But I knew she wasn't going to beg. She wasn't going to forgive. And she damn sure wasn't going to die quietly. I booked a one-way ticket to Lisbon. No plan. No itinerary. Just the need to be somewhere, anywhere that didn't smell like Ethan or sound like Lily's voice. Before I closed the laptop, I wrote one more thing. If cancer is going to take me, I want it to take a version of me that no longer exists. That night, I lit a candle. Burned every photo of them I had left. And finally, I slept. Not peacefully, but like someone who'd stopped waiting to be saved. Lisbon was quieter than I remembered. I'd visited once, years ago, on a solo architecture trip before I met Ethan. Back then, it was sunshine and cobblestones, cheap wine and foreign words I didn't understand. Now, it was my hiding place. A city that didn't know my face or my story. A place where no one would look at me like I was the girl who got left at the altar or the girl who might not make it to next year. I checked into a small guesthouse on Rua das Jane Las Verde. No elevator. No concierge. Just a woman named Rosa who gave me an old brass key and said, "Here, you are nobody." Isn't that wonderful? It was. I spent the first week walking the streets like a ghost, listening to fado music echo from windows, sipping espresso on balconies, watching strangers fall in love without knowing who I used to be. At night, I wrote in my journal, "I'm not running. I'm shedding." And every morning, I woke up and whispered to the ceiling, "Today, I'm still alive." That was enough. Until the email came. It was from Ethan. Subject line: "Please." No body text. Just an attachment. I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then 10. Then I opened it. A video. He was sitting in his apartment. Same couch. Same bookshelf. Except this time, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He stared into the camera for a long time before speaking. "Emily. If you're seeing this, it means I found the courage to press send. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to watch all of this. But I need you to know the truth." I almost clicked out. But something in his voice held me still. He continued, "I didn't choose Lily over you. I chose fear. I chose the easier road. I chose the version of life where I didn't have to watch the woman I loved disappear slowly." My chest tightened. I was terrified, Emily. Not of your cancer, but of how powerless it made me feel. You were always the strong one. And I hated myself for not knowing how to be that for you. He wiped his eyes. Something I'd never seen him do. You once told me, real love doesn't run when things get hard. I guess I failed that test. He paused. But Lily, she didn't come between us. She just happened to be standing in the wreckage when I collapsed. That line stung more than I expected. He looked up, one last time. You deserve better. I hope, wherever you are, you find peace. And I hope you know. I did love you. I still do. The screen went black. I closed the laptop. No tears. No rage. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something. He hadn't sent the video to ask for forgiveness. He sent it because he needed to be absolved. But I wasn't his priest. And I didn't owe him salvation. The next morning, I deleted the video. Then I walked to a tattoo shop near the water and got a small design inked just above my ribs, a thin, cracked heart with a single flame rising from the center. The artist asked what it meant. I smiled. It means something broke. But I kept burning anyway. And that night, for the first time since I left San Francisco, I danced. Alone, under fairy lights in an alleyway courtyard. Because I wasn't Emily the bride. I wasn't Emily the dying girl. I was just a woman who survived betrayal. And still had fire left in her bones. Lisbon had begun to feel like air in my lungs again. I was no longer counting days or waiting for the end to come. I had joined a sketch group that met at a cafe near Alfama. I'd even made a friend, a woman named Camila, who never asked about my past and never tried to fix me. We drank wine, painted rooftops, and talked about men we didn't miss. It almost felt like healing. Until the second message arrived. Not from Ethan. From Lily. I nearly deleted it without opening. But curiosity, it's a cruel, relentless thing. The subject line simply read, "You were never supposed to know." I opened it. It wasn't long. Just a short message followed by a single audio recording. "Emily. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. Maybe you hate me forever. Maybe I deserve that. But I need you to listen to this. I need you to hear the truth. It wasn't all what you think. Please. Just listen. I hovered my finger over the play button. Then I tapped it. At first it was static. Then voices. A man. A woman. Muffled but unmistakable. It was Ethan. And my doctor. Dr. Kaplan. I leaned forward. She doesn't know yet, Ethan said. You're sure this can't wait until after the wedding? Ethan, she needs to start treatment now. She's early stage, but any delay could change the prognosis. Are you sure you want to keep this from her? She'll cancel everything. She won't go through with it. Oh. I can't lose her now. Then Lily's voice, barely a whisper, cutting in. You don't get to choose that for her. Silence. Then the clip ended. My heart felt like it stopped. Her replayed it. Again. And again. It was recorded before the wedding. They knew. They all knew. Ethan knew. Lily knew. Even Dr. Kaplan had tried to intervene. But Ethan, my fiancé, chose to hide my own diagnosis from me so the wedding wouldn't be ruined. So his dream life wouldn't fall apart. He lied. He played God with my future. And Lily, maybe she hadn't slept with him yet, maybe she had, but she didn't stop it. She didn't tell me. She let me walk down that aisle not knowing death was already wrapped around my spine. And that wasn't betrayal. That was cruelty. That night, I walked along the Tagus River until my feet gave out. I sat on the stone ledge beneath a bridge and screamed into the night. Not because I was broken. But because I was done being anyone's secret. Done being protected. Lied to. Silenced for my own good. I was tired of surviving for people who never deserved it. So I made a decision. I booked a flight. Back to San Francisco. Not to forgive. Not to confront. But to finish what they started. Because if my days were numbered, I'd make every one of them count. And someone was finally going to answer to me. The plane touched down in San Francisco just after midnight. It was raining. Of course it was. Like the universe wanted to remind me I was back in the city where my world collapsed. But I wasn't the same woman who left with a broken heart and a countdown on her life. This time, I had no illusions. No desire for closure. No hope they would redeem themselves. I was here to reclaim what they stole, my voice, my story, my fire. And I was going to leave wreckage in my wake if I had to. I didn't tell anyone I was back. No texts. No calls. I booked a room at a hotel downtown under a different name. Cash only. The first person I went to see wasn't Ethan. It was Dr. Kaplan. I showed up at his office unannounced, still wearing the scarf I'd used to hide the side of my face after chemo had taken its toll. His assistant tried to turn me away. I walked past her and straight into his office. He looked up. Paled. Emily. I dropped the scarf on his desk. How long did you know? He opened his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance. Don't bother lying. I heard the recording. The one Lily sent. You knew. You all knew. He sank into his chair. I wanted to tell you. I urged Ethan. But you didn't, I snapped. You let him make my choice for me. You let him play God with my life. Do you even hear how twisted that is? He looked ashamed. But shame meant nothing now. I could file a complaint, I said. Destroy your career. I still might. But right now, I don't want your license. I want the truth. He nodded slowly. You were diagnosed a week before the wedding, he confessed. We caught it early. Very early. With immediate treatment, your chances were over 80%. I blinked. 80%. I whispered. I could have lived. He hesitated. Yes. And just like that, the air was gone from the room. The blood drained from my face. The rage. It didn't explode. It imploded. A quiet, lethal detonation in the center of my chest. All this time, I thought I was on borrowed time. All this time, I thought I was dying. And I could have lived. If they had told me the truth. If they had trusted me to choose. I stood up. Walked out. Didn't look back. That night, I sat in the hotel bathroom staring at my reflection. I didn't look like the old Emily anymore. I looked like someone who had nothing left to lose. So I did what any woman with a death sentence and a vendetta might do. I sent Ethan and Lily each the same message. Meet me. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. The rooftop at our old building. You owe me that much. Then I closed the phone. And waited. Not because I wanted an apology. But because sometimes the only way to bury the past is to burn it alive. The building was the same. Same rust on the railing. Same cracks in the concrete. Same view of the city lights flickering like lies no one was brave enough to kill. I arrived 10 minutes early. Not because I was eager, because I needed to see them walk in. I needed to watch guilt take shape on their faces. At exactly 8:01 p.m., Ethan stepped out of the stairwell. He looked older. More tired. But still wearing that same cologne, the scent I once associated with home. Now, it smelled like a tomb. He opened his mouth. I raised a hand. Wait. Lily came seconds later. Her hair was down, her steps uncertain. She froze when she saw me. Good. I didn't say hello. I didn't offer a seat. I stood at the edge of the rooftop, the city behind me, the ghosts at my feet. You're here because I let you be, I said coldly. Not because you deserve it. Ethan nodded, eyes down. Lily didn't speak. I stepped forward. I know everything. The doctor. The recordings. The decision to lie to me, to hide my diagnosis, to keep me happy for one more perfect day. I turned to Ethan. You didn't just cheat. You stole my life. He swallowed hard. I thought I was protecting you. I laughed, sharp and hollow. From the truth. From the chance to fight for myself. You didn't protect me, Ethan. You buried me. Then I looked at Lily. And you. You could have stopped it. You were my best friend. You had 100 chances to do the right thing. But you stood there and watched me walk into a future that wasn't mine anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. I tried, Emily. I tried to tell you so many times. Then why didn't you? I snapped. Because if you had, I would have hated you. And you wanted me to love you, even while you were sleeping with him. The wind whipped around us. No one moved. No one defended themselves. Because there was no defense left. I reached into my bag. Pulled out a sealed envelope. Held it out. Ethan stepped forward, confused. What's this? My updated medical file, I said. I had a scan done last week. Turns out, I responded to treatment. Against all odds. I'm not dying anymore. Shock painted both their faces. Lily gasped. Ethan looked like someone just handed him a grenade. I'm going to live, I said. And the best part? I get to do it without either of you. I tucked the envelope back in my coat. This meeting. It's not for forgiveness. It's not for healing. It's a funeral. For the version of me you killed. I took a deep breath. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Lily. Whatever love I had for either of you, it died the day I learned you thought I was better off in the dark. Then I walked past them. Down the stairs. Out of the building. Into a night that finally felt clean. The next morning, I woke up with sunlight on my face. It was the first time in months I didn't wake up drowning. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't scroll through old photos. I didn't check hospital messages. I just breathed. For once, my chest didn't ache from grief. It was something else now. Room. Room to begin. By noon, I was sitting in a small cafe in the Mission District, sipping black coffee and watching the city hum. People passed by in a blur, talking, laughing, living. The same city that once swallowed me whole now felt like soil. And I was something new growing out of it. My laptop sat open in front of me. A blank document. Title: The Truth They Buried. It wouldn't be a revenge post. It wouldn't even be about them. It would be about me. About women like me. Women who are lied to for their own good. Who are betrayed by the people they trust the most. Who are told they are fragile when in reality they are fire wrapped in flesh. I started typing. One sentence. Then another. The words came in waves, fast and hot. I didn't stop to edit. I didn't censor myself. I didn't apologize. Because this time, the story was mine. By evening, I'd written 10 pages. Raw. Violent. True. And at the bottom, I signed my real name. Emily Tran. Not the woman who got left at the altar. Not the woman who had cancer. Not the woman who cried in silence while her life crumbled. Just Emily. A woman who burned to the ground and learned how to rise without asking permission. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost declined. But something told me to answer. It was Camila, from Lisbon. You disappeared, she said gently. I had unfinished business, I replied. She laughed. Are you coming back? I looked out the window. The sky was purple with the promise of rain. I think I'm going forward, I said. Not back. Silence. Then her voice, soft but certain. Then I'll see you there. I smiled. And for the first time in forever, it felt real. Not forced. Not fake. Real. Like the beginning of something that wasn't built on pain. The blog post went live at midnight. No marketing. No announcement. Just a quiet publish button and a deep breath. I didn't expect anything. I told myself it was for me. That it didn't matter if 5 people read it or 50. But deep down, there was a voice whispering, please, let someone hear me. By morning, it had over 10,000 views. By noon, 50,000. Emails poured in. Messages from women who'd been lied to, cheated on, left behind in hospital rooms and wedding halls. Women who were told to be quiet. Told to stay soft. Told to forgive. And now they were telling me their stories. Each message was a piece of a mirror I didn't know I'd been missing. I wasn't alone. I had never been alone. I just didn't know where to look. A week later, a podcast producer reached out. She'd read my post. Said she wanted me to share my story on air. Not for shock. Not for pity. But because, her words, not mine, you survived the unthinkable and came back louder. I said yes. The recording took place in a small studio downtown. The host asked me one question. If you could speak to the Emily from the day before your wedding, what would you say? I thought for a long time. Then I answered. You think the worst thing that can happen is being betrayed. But the real tragedy is betraying yourself. Staying silent. Playing small. Believing you're only worthy when someone else chooses you. I paused. But you are worthy. Even in the wreckage. Especially in the wreckage. After the episode aired, everything shifted. I wasn't just Emily Tran, the girl with the tragic story. I was the woman who told the truth out loud and survived the echo. My inbox flooded with collaboration offers. Women's groups. Speaking panels. Writers' collectives. One publisher even asked if I'd consider turning my post into a memoir. But the offer that struck me most. A message from a young woman named Jordan. She'd been diagnosed with lymphoma at 24. Her fiancé had left her the week after her first chemo session. She read my blog while lying in a hospital bed, shaking, alone, terrified. Her message ended like this. I don't know if I'll live. But your words made me feel like I already won something. Thank you for making me feel seen. I cried for the first time in weeks. Not because I was in pain, but because somewhere in the middle of my own devastation, I had lit a fire that helped someone else find their way out. And in that moment, I realized, maybe this was why I lived. Not to return to who I was, but to become someone who could turn ruin into rescue. I stood at the pier that morning, watching the fog roll in off the bay. The air was salt and silence. My scarf whipped in the wind, but I didn't pull it tighter. I just stood there, holding a small, white envelope in my hand. No stamp. No address. Just my name, written in a familiar curve. The envelope had been in the bottom of a storage box from my old apartment. I'd almost thrown it away. But something told me to open it. It was the letter I had written to Ethan, back when I thought I was dying. I had written it 2 nights before our wedding. A parting gift. A goodbye wrapped in trembling hands and invisible hope. I unfolded the page now, for the first time since that night. My own handwriting stared back at me. Ethan. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I didn't want to leave like this, not without telling you what you meant to me. I know you're scared. I am too. But if I had one wish, it wouldn't be to live forever. It would be to spend one more day with you on that beach we found in Big Sur. You remember it, don't you? The one with the driftwood shaped like a heart. You said it was fate. I wanted to believe that. I still do. I'm not angry at the universe. I'm grateful. Grateful I got to love you at all. Please don't carry guilt. Please don't shut down. Live the life I won't get to finish. For both of us. I didn't cry. I didn't tear it up. I simply folded it again and let the wind take it from my hand. It floated for a moment, then disappeared into the ocean. Because I didn't need Ethan to read it anymore. That version of me, the girl who wrote that letter, was already gone. She died the moment she realized love without honesty isn't love at all. And in her place was me. Later that night, I lit a candle by the window of my new apartment. Small. Quiet. Mine. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote at the top of the first page. Dear Emily. This time, the letter is for you. And I began. Not a goodbye, but a beginning. Because some stories don't end with wedding bells or funerals. Some stories end in fire. And begin in flight. It's funny how time doesn't heal you. It just gives you distance from the version of yourself that needed saving. 1 year later, I was standing on a stage. Microphone in hand. 100 eyes watching. Not in pity. Not in judgment. But in reflection. I was speaking at a women's summit, one of those big, glossy events with flower walls and Instagram quotes. My topic. How to rise from the ruins. I told them everything. The betrayal. The cancer. The silence that nearly swallowed me whole. And then I told them the truth I'd earned. We spend so much time waiting to be chosen that we forget the most powerful thing we can do is choose ourselves. The room was still. No blinking. No shifting. Just listening. And that's when I realized I had become the woman I once needed. Not perfect. Not unscarred. But whole in a way no one else could define. After the event, a young girl, barely 20, approached me. Her eyes were glassy, her hands shaking. She whispered, I was going to marry him next month. But I found out he's been lying. I didn't know what to do until I heard you. She paused. You saved me. I smiled gently. No, love. You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you could. She hugged me. And in that moment, it wasn't about Ethan or Lily or even the cancer. It was about legacy. Not the kind you leave behind after death, but the kind you build while you're still burning. Now, I live in Barcelona. My hair's grown back wild and curly. I don't straighten it anymore. I write full time. Teach women how to tell their stories without apology. I fall in love often. Not always with people. Sometimes with ideas. Sunsets. Fresh pastries. The sound of waves at 3 a.m. And I laugh. God, I laugh. Not because life's perfect, but because I am free. And freedom, it doesn't come from being loved. It comes from surviving what tried to unmake you. From walking out of the fire. Still breathing. Still burning. And finally, beautifully,